All right, all right, all right, all right. There's no driving today, so all you people that are always in my comment section talking about my driving and whatnot, here's one for you. There's no driving. I'm not swearing out driving though, because I got things to do and places to be. All right, so this is another video. Obviously, it's going to be about how to fix the community, and this is for people who are interested in fixing the community. I recognize that everybody is not into fixing the community. Some people would say, forget the community. Community's gone. We're just going to do whatever. And that's one of the issues that I have with the so-called passport bros, is because they're like, oh, forget the community. We're just going to do whatever. And part of it I understand, but the other part of it is, what if our ancestors, what if the people in the 60s and all that didn't fight? And listen, some did. Some went to other places. Eventually, Kwame Ture, what was his first name? Stokely Carmichael, eventually he ended up moving away, and others do as well, right? They're like, oh, I just can't, I just can't do it in this country. It is what it is. So, not Kwame Ture. Is that Kwame Ture? Stokely Carmichael, whatever he changed his name to. I don't want to confuse him with Most Def. I can't remember those guys' names. So anyway, one of my favorite rappers anyway, before he got all woke and stuff. But whatever. So I want to talk about, raising our children. I'm going to put up a screenshot, and this, I have a bunch of stuff I want to talk about, finances, community, collective thinking, and all that kind of stuff. So there's thoughts, but this one hit me, as a reading one of the comments to one of the things I just posted, and I want to talk about this because this is important about how we raise our children, right? And the dating, I've talked about the dating and mating strategy. In particular, I've talked about the way the women, their mating strategies, in which I think are so detrimental to the community. But that doesn't mean that I don't think that the male dating strategy is just as injurious to the community as well. When you guys are getting up on your game, think even my daughter's told me this. I've told the story before, right? When you guys are on your game, you're doing well. The guys who are doing well, 25 and up, 25 to let's say 35, doing well, doing whatever, doing what they got to do. Did I release that video yet? I don't even know, man. Oh, I didn't. I got a video about a 35-year-old. I got to re-edit it. It's 35 and up people. That's coming. If not, if it's probably after this one, so you've probably already seen it already. So to the guys who are on their game, maybe they have a good job, they have a good career, maybe they're truck drivers, they started a business, maybe they're HVAC guys, they're carpenters, they got a lawn service. They're doing something with their life from the early 20s up till the mid to late 30s, right? But they refuse to get married, and this is a dating problem that we have. If we want to talk about marriage and saving the community, then the men have to be dedicated towards that. Now, yes, it's truer that that men have a longer window period for selecting a mate, because they're not as inhibited by the reproductive clocks, right? So they can be 39, 40 years old starting a family. I personally wouldn't recommend that. I mean, listen, by the time I was 40, I mean, I had my kids when, I had my daughter when I was 25. She was the baby. So by the time I was, 15 years later, by the time I'm 40, she's, I'm in a great spot. So I wouldn't recommend it. You really want to be raising kids at 50 years old, right? You used to have a baby at 40. You're running around at 10. You're going to take your kids to softball games and stuff at 10 when he's 10 and 50. I'm not saying it's not impossible. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, just think about all that. So this is about saving the community in our dating and mating standards and practices, and we really should. Why is it so hot in here? And really should really correct, how we think about, when to settle down and all this. And think about this. And this is so true, and this is not talked about as well. And that's why, according to the The screenshot I put up, it's absolutely correct. If you teach your sons to go out there and be players, if boys grow out to being players, by the time they turn 18, by the time, and who are they playing with? Who are you playing with? So by the time that you're ready to settle down, right, you've run through a bunch of people probably in your town, or you know somebody else, and then you're complaining about the women being run through, or that they, or that you're complaining about, about there's nobody left to marry, or these girls got kids, or STDs, or emotional baggage, or whatever. So you really have to be very thoughtful about what we're saying here, about what we're doing, and you have to be very intentional. So there has to be an onus about telling our children, telling our young boys about who they should marry, when they should marry, how to be responsible with their bodies, exercise discipline. Yes, discipline. You can't just go out here screwing everybody that's in sight. You risk pregnancies, emotional damage to them, which is going to affect your own dating and selecting pools later on. And you got to think collectively. This is about saving the culture. If you are not, is my AC? If you are not concerned about the community, then first of all, I think that's problematic. That anybody's not concerned about the community. They're just so selfish. They're just concerned about themselves at all times. You're not worried about how the ladies are faring. You're not worried about what our cultural image is. You're not worried about our collective scores, about how many people are going to college or trade schools, or even the military. You're not worried about all that. Although I'm not really so keen on the military as much. I'd rather people start their own businesses, become their own persons. I'd rather you go to college than that. But yes, the military pays for college, so there's all these different maneuvers that you can make and moves to make in order to make something of yourself. But think outside the box and think what you can do, what you enjoy doing. Particularly if you're young in your 20s, right? You start like I got cat hair all over the place. If you start a business or moving company, you just get yourself a pickup truck, you start a moving company, get you and your boys to start a moving company or start a lawn care business or something like that. Man, you can really, by the time if you start that by 21, by the time you're 25, you can buy one or two more trucks and, this, that, and the other, and pay some people. And I know a dude who used to do cleaning out of homes that were foreclosed on, and so there's all these different type of hustles, right? To get out there and really make something of yourself. If you don't want to do college, if you don't want to go to college, or you can do that and still go to college at night, or it's always online school. Some of them, are fairly cheap and all that. Some of them are fairly expensive, so you got to do your due diligence and homework with that. So listen, this is about saving the community and the way that we raise our sons and the our way that we raise our girls. I'm not going to talk so much about the dating strategies of ladies, because I've talked about that and I don't want to make it seem like I'm beating up on them. Yeah, stay away from the Pookies and Ray Rays, of course. But, just because you're an educated guy or you got it going on doesn't mean you don't have Pookie-like behaviors, right? So Pookie-like behaviors, even for a guy who's on his game, who's on his grind, is sleeping with women, ghosting them, going through grocery stores, raising these girls up, right? Right, as I talked about in other videos, right? And there's numerous videos of dudes doing this. And so this is, these guys are social influencers for a reason. They think it's okay to walk through a Marshall's or a Target or some grocery store and just raise girls up, sleep on them, and don't care about them. Just throw them away like trash. You have to think collectively and think what that does to their psyche, how she's going to talk to her friends, how she's going to talk to her children, how she's going to talk to her nieces, and you're poisoning the pool for which we all have to select from. And that is irresponsible and a negative image that we just don't need. We have to ask ourselves, right, what does it take? We have to ask ourselves, what does it take and what do the communities look like, in particular, of those what we would consider races that would be more successful than us collectively? If you look at the white race or the Indian race or the Asians who are here, right, what is it that they're doing that their kids are so well educated, so well, they don't have the crime problems, they don't have many of the problems that they have, and one of them is simply family formation and family stability. Forget all this talk about we can do it by ourselves. Forget all this talk like we don't need to partner up. Forget all this talk about you know women can be strong to raise men, and guys listen, we are stronger together. In the clip that I played about Nina Turner, I just deleted it, so if you can go back and watch that, in that full segment clip, I think that is in the video about my religious ideas. In that, if you watch the full clip of that, she talks about, we either advance together as one or we don't advance at all. And it's not good enough for us to look around and see all these different black women in particular in these C-suites, executives, making moves, and they don't have any mates. And so therefore they're so frustrated by their lack of mate selection that they either don't have mates, they select mates that maybe not be of lesser of equal quality, aka dating down, younger, etc., or they date outside their race. Now, this video is about saving the culture. So if you don't believe in any of that, then that's fine. That's cool. You do what you got to do. But I'm talking specifically to the people who really think about and really want to save the community, who enjoy our food, our music, our culture, the way we interact, our banter back and forth, our game nights, all the things that make us who and what we are. If you are interested in saving those types of things, just like the Indians when they come here from the Middle East and they get here and they want to save their culture, therefore they save their music, their food, their names that they give to each other, and they marry within the culture. Same thing with the Asian people, right? So all this, nobody else likes us, right? We can't listen. We need to like us. That's the most important thing. We need to like us, our features, our culture, our ability to think, all these different things, and we need to format and formulate a different mating pattern and different mating structure. And this is going to be about replicating and continuing the culture. If you are simply getting married just for the sake of getting married, and if you just want to mate because you don't want to sit in your bed, you want to come home to an empty house, then I am suggesting that you are mating and selecting and marrying for the wrong reason. Full stop. The reason that you should be mating, dating, selecting is because you are interested in propagating and perpetuating the culture. That should be number one. Perpetuating the culture, the way that we live, the way that we move, the way that we look. This is what you want to perpetuate. And people who are not, people who want to date out, and people, those, listen, I'm not talking about interracial relationships per se. You like who you like and you love who you love. No issue, no smoke with that. But I'm talking about if you have the mindset of what it's going to take to fix our culture, when we look at our test scores, we look at our attendance rates, what it's going to take is a collective mindset that we either advance together or we don't advance at all. And right now we're not advancing at all. And it's obvious. When we look at other races, they're advancing. The Jewish people are advancing, Indian people, Asian people, white people, they're all advancing together because they're mating with an intent and purpose of not just having children for the sake of having children because we're selfishly want to replicate our own genes. No, but the idea is that they want to perpetuate a culture, the way that we live, the way that we move, the way that we operate, the way that we eat, the way that we love, the way that we dance to music. That's what they're looking to perpetuate. So I'm saying that we need to change the way that we do that, the way that we perpetuate culture, the way that we think about marriage, the way that we perpetuate culture, and who we're selecting to marry. Doesn't say, no one's saying that if you marry somebody who's white or Indian or whatever, that you can't still perpetuate your culture. You certainly can, right? You can take some of their culture, some of your culture, you can get them together and still operate within your culture and all this. But if you are deaf, but the most important thing is to perpetuate the culture. And you have to do that. You should do that. You must do that by choosing better mates and by intentionally raising better sons who are going to think collectively and who are going to operate in the world and not be predatory in their mate selection until they're ready to get married at 35 and 40 years old. You can't have them out here sleeping with all these different ladies, messing them up, messing them over, getting them pregnant, making single mothers, giving them emotionally transmitted diseases, psychologically transmitted diseases, as well as physically transmitted diseases, and then think that they're going to be emotionally stable and when it's time for them to get married, when and if somebody actually chooses to marry them. Black women are the least selected on dating apps and the least likely to get married within their lifetime. But how many mates are they running into within their lives, and how many men who are actually viable? How many men who are actually viable? Actually viable. One thing I didn't like when Kevin Samuels used to talk about, I got something to do. Used to talk about something like whatever the number was, something like 61% of the men are in the middle class. But how many of them are straight? How many of them actually want to be married? Right? You got to break all these numbers down, right? So how many men are viable who are straight heterosexuals, who are financially viable, who are emotionally viable? How many of them do we have? And how many of them can select a woman who is equally emotionally valuable, intelligent, et cetera, et cetera? So those are things that we got to work on and really try to commit ourselves to fixing the culture. Fixing the culture is about raising better children, and those children have to be geared toward, here's what you're going to do. Here's the life that you're going to live. This is why I advocate for a rites of passage. Here's what it's going to take for you to become a man. You are going to have to answer this question about what marriage is. You are going to have to, here's what I would suggest anyway. Here's what you're going to have to answer. Here's what marriage is. Here's what the kind of grades you have to get. Here's your life plan as far as college, military, trade schools, opening up your own business. You got to have a plan that what you're going to do. And here's how you mate select. Here's how you pick a good girl, right? Here's the things to stay away from in a bad girl. A girl who's fast, a girl who's just completely ratchet, ghetto, who likes to argue, likes to fight, yes, overly excessive with the different hair colors and all that. Overly excessive with what I think Didi the YouTuber calls, or somebody calls it the starter kit, the ratchet starter kit. Maybe it's Dr. Thunder. I can't remember who. Ratchet, that type of behavior, right? The excessive hair, the excessive nails, the excessive makeup, the excessive, use of foul language, excessive tattoos, right? All this different type of stuff, right? So that men generally aren't attracted to, particularly a man who's on his game. And one thing you really should do with your sons is, take them to places, show them different things, museums, go to the mayor's ball or show them pictures of that, and ask them, would you feel comfortable with this woman, with this girl on your arm at this location? If I took you to the mayor's ball, would you feel comfortable with that type of woman speaking the type of way that she does at that function? And the mayor's ball, if you're picturing in your mind, a bunch of white people, remember, they're black mayors, right? There are black mayors out here. I never forget, there was some kind of incident going on and CNN, I swear, it had like five or eight black mayors. I'm like, did they get every single black mayor in the country to come on this show to talk about, it was something national? I don't remember what it was. But number one, I was impressed. I mean, all these black mayors out here, right? So, we don't realize how big the U.S. is, and how we think it's rare and all that, but there's quite a few black mayors out here, right? So, would you feel comfortable bringing your date to that type of place? Are you in a place as a man eligible to go into that place and be invited to that place and have a beautiful woman along with you as you go into that? So that's what I want to say about our mate selection. We have to change our mate selection. We have to be about duty, honor, selecting the best mate for us, and making sure that she's viable, making sure that the men themselves understand what is viable, understanding what is a good woman, understand what type of woman to stay away from. Yeah, listen, I give credence to the fact that women go through a bad boy phase and then they grow out of it. There's probably the same thing that guys go through. They go sleeping around at the clubs and whatever, getting on dating apps, doing whatever they're doing, and then they want a good girl. Well, you can't mess with you can't mess over all these girls. And if the girls are seeing that and saying, okay, well, these girls are getting all the attention, never connecting that there's a type of guy, that there's a type of girl that a guy will sleep with. There's a type of girl that a guy will sleep with, but he'll never a wife. And you as a woman have to figure that out. He's going to sleep with this woman, but he's never going to marry her. Now, do you want a guy who's run through? Of course not. He might come home back to you with diseases and all that kind of stuff, right? So we got to fix the way we collectively mate. And we got to get rid of this mindset that it's okay just to run around and do whatever, and then we're going to go back to the community, try to save it when we're older, right? So we got to fix that about us. So So I hope I said something that was thought provoking, that'll get us thinking about how we raise our children going forward. And you got to start young, right? You got to start young, 6, 7, 8. When you get married, talk to your kids about when you get married. And Shahrazad Ali said something that I once disagreed with. She said that these little boys need to be playing with dolls, play house with little girls and stuff. I was like, what the heck is she talking about? But the more I thought about it, she's absolutely right. Because if you get used to playing house, the kid get used to playing house, and he's obviously the daddy, the real daddy. If he and then he will have an understanding about this is the way that my trajectory of my life will go. He might not be able to verbalize, but he's going to understand when I'm 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old that my goal in life is to continue on with my legacy, to continue on propagating the culture, continue on with that, and therefore I got to get married. So we got to change this strong independent attitude. We got to change this I don't need you. We got to change this I'm just going to run around. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be a hoe. I'm going to do this. We got to change. And the way that we change that is we got to change it within the kids. Some of these guys, 25, 26, they ain't going to hopefully they wake up. Maybe they'll listen to this and wake up and like, man, I really am messing over these girls. I really do remember I would go to this girl. I remember this girl was busting my tires and because she couldn't emotionally regulate herself. But what did I do to cause her to break the windows on my car, to flatten my tires and bang on my door at 2 o'clock in the morning? And like the calls I used to have to break up all the time, right? What did I do to cause that? Am I in a relationship but I'm sleeping with her, telling her that I'm going to leave my wife, knowing that I'm never going to do that, right? All this type of stuff builds up trauma, builds up resentment, builds up anger, and next thing you know, we got good women out here who have been messed over so much that they had this blanket statement that all men ain't ish. So if we want to fix that, we got to fix how we raise our boys, and that's going to come from men like myself who think like me, and good fathers out there who are telling their boys from an early age, your goal in life should be this. As long as we say it shouldn't be that. As long as any person, any boy, any girl within the black community says your goal is not to be married, what you're telling them, or should not be married, or a man should not be married, or a woman doesn't have to be married, or like Fannie Willis said when she was on the stand, a man is not a necessity, he's not a whatever plan, he's an accessory, he's an add-on. That is the destruction of our community. I'm not a necessity. Men need to be needed. So if I don't have a need, if you don't have a need, a role, if I don't have a need and a role, then I'm nothing. Then I'm not going to be there. And as long as I'm not going to be, I can just do whatever. I can just do whatever. You have to give the men that it's their duty and an obligation to be fathers and to be husbands. Now, is everybody going to do it? Of course not. Does everybody have the physical capacities of people who don't have it? Of course not. We don't want them to feel shame either, male or female. I get that. But if you're capable, then it is your duty to propagate the culture, not just for selfish reasons, as for your selfish genes. I just want a kid that looks like me, but I want somebody who's going to help the culture out. Again, this is for people who care along those lines. So I think I said enough here about that. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions. I think that Shahrazad Ali was right. I think that Fannie Willis, the district attorney from Georgia, was wrong in her assessment that men should not be a plan. They should be a plan, and a woman should be a plan. There should be a plan. A plan. It is a plan. This is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to make it. And as long as we think that we can make it with ourselves, without other people, we will never ever get there. I think that Nina Turner was right, former Ohio secretary, state senator, was right. Either we all advance together. I think she was quoting somebody else, but probably somebody from the 1960s. Either we all advance together, or we're not advancing at all. Actually, I think that was there was a lady from the 1960s who said that. I can't think of her name right off the top of my head, but I think that Nina Turner was It was repeating her. Regardless, either we all advance together, we're not advancing at all. And right now, if you're looking around and understand why we're not advancing, it's because we have been separated. We have been destroyed from the from the outside, but from the inside. And now that inside, it's taking a hold of our mind. I don't need a man. I don't need this. I don't need that. I can raise a kid by myself. I can be a strong, independent mother by myself. I don't need this. I don't need that. The government is not my husband. The government's giving me food stamps. The government's doing this. The government's making you pay child support. The government will stick you in jail. The government's says I can get divorced. The government, and we put so much reliance on that now we're not advancing. And we have to recognize this trick. We have to recognize this trick. So, all right, I'll leave it up there. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions. Any show ideas, let me know. Much love and peace. I got more of these to come concerning fixing the community. It will be in the Fixing the Community playlist. You guys can check it out. Much love and peace.